there's a movie that was one of those pinnacle zombie movies that came out back in 2001 or
One
2003.
Cut of the Dead.
I still haven't gotten to watch it. So now I know it's about zombies
Yeah.
because I didn't know what the hell it was about. So this was that movie 28 Days Later.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
was
They do it
filmed
28 years later now.
28 years later. So is now going to come out. New movie. The trailer came out for it over the last week or two. I watched the trailer for it. Now, I'm honestly not the biggest zombie movie guy. I mean, there's some that I like and all that, but what was interesting in particular, it was like 28 Days Later was a pivotal piece because it was made for $8 million dollars and it produced 87 or $85 million dollars at the box office.
Yeah.
And so it was like this huge underground success that blew up, and it was all filmed with these digital mini DV cameras. It's a small, videotape that could record digitally,
Hmm.
and it was the Canon XL1, which was the same class of camera as my first cameras that I bought to become Rough Cut Productions. I bought the
Oh,
Panasonic DVX 100Bs. So you could either buy the Canon XL1 or the Panasonic DVX 100Bs, or you could buy Sony's first, which I don't even remember what that was. But at the time, the Panasonic and the Canon were kind of like neck and neck. And long story short, that is a relatively cheap camera. I mean, I was able to afford them and I didn't have any money yet. I think I got both cameras used for like, I think I got them for one for 1700 and another one for 15 or 1800. So that wasn't, I mean, that for me, that was so much, but in camera world, that's like nothing, right? These are like cheap entry level cameras that are professional, but
yeah,
so they
yeah.
filmed that whole movie with those for 8 million and then made 85 million. So
So
here
it's
we
such
are.
a turnaround. Go ahead.
What's
Go ahead.
that?
I said
What were
that's
you?
such a good turnaround.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of movies that spend a couple $100 million and don't have profit margins like that. That's what's so enticing about those
Yeah.
underground hits that are made for lower budgets like that. If they blow up, it's so easy to have a dramatic profit margin, right? Like, but the more you spend, the more you got to recoup before you make anything.
Yeah.
So the newest movie has a budget of $75 million. That's quite a step up from the 8 million that they had back in the day.
What about the mid movie?
So I don't know anything about the mid movie because I didn't even realize they made a mid movie until I started researching this. I
And
don't
I'm not
know.
sure I ever saw that one. That
It
was
was called
28
28 Weeks Later. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I feel like an idiot to some extent bringing this up as a conversation topic for this episode with not knowing what happened in the middle, which I'm sure is an interesting thing to itself. But here's the deal. The new one has $75 million budget, and guess what they're using to film it on?
The RC. The
iPhone 15 Pro.
15 Pro?
Yeah, because the 16
way.
wasn't out when they started filming it. Yeah, yeah.
Filming on the iPhone.
I think the whole movie is filmed with iPhone 15 Pros.
15. What?
Yeah, dude. But they're like being rigged out with great lenses, right? So you can like they're modding them, but the camera is the iPhone 15 Pro. And if you watch that trailer, it's impressive. I mean,
I
it's
haven't paid
crazy.
attention. I've seen parts of the trailer, I think.
Yeah.
This is something like I want to go all in and rewatch 28 Days Later and like
Okay.
really get back into that area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
And I want to. So now that I know it's iPhone, I really want to watch it.
It's interesting, right? I mean, this is like it's come full circle where they're using ultimately well, in this case, totally a consumer camera.
Yeah.
But for the biggest, massive production, $75 million. I know that's not like Marvel, but that's a crazy amount of money to use that camera. Nobody's spent that much. I think that's the biggest budget. There's been a couple of filmmakers that have used iPhones to make some things, but I think they were more for parts of a specific shot or something. Like they were
get the look.
incorporated.
Yeah, to get
Yeah.
the
And it
look.
fitted into a place. It's got unique abilities because it's so small and you can put it. I mean, one of the great things to use it for right away is to put it in the for a car rig. If you're driving and you want a camera right there pointed at you, you could
Yeah.
use a GoPro or you could use an iPhone. I mean,
If you're
iPhone
not
simply
using a
just has a
camera
better picture.
that's 3.5 feet long with a lens on it.
Right. I mean, it's just like that's so small and thin.
Yeah.
You can just literally put it where the speedometer is and get a shot like that. So
Yeah. Get through the steering wheel.
absolutely. They're very enticing. And that's part of what they were saying, I guess, is that they used them because of the form factor. And, last year it was the creator was shot with the Sony A7S. I'm sorry, the Sony FX3, which has the same sensor as the A7S III.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal because that was a $3,500 camera, that's in the same class of cameras as the Canon R5C that I use, but I think the R5C is better. And so now to do iPhone, and it was weird timing to come across that because I just got my iPhone 16 upgrade from a 12, and I just put out a little video, that has the first sample footage I've done with it without having any attachments to it. It's just straight out of the box. But I have a variable ND filter coming and a little Cinebloom filter coming that'll kind of make all the highlights that are in my shot bloom out so it looks like an old school diffusion lens. I'm going to put that on there and I'll be running some more tests, and that should be a significant difference because I'll be able to really properly set the camera at specific settings, lock it in using third-party apps, and have these tools on front that are very low profile, extremely low profile, and see what I can get out of it that way. But what an endorsement of the potential that if you watch the trailer for 28 years later, and know that that was shot with iPhone 15 Pros, however, using really awesome lenses on the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's the boat that you're in to an extent with any camera that you buy is you're going to have to invest in a lens that you're going to put on it anyway. My Canon right now that I'm filming on, the body I recently, this is the second Canon R5C I bought, used 2,900. It was 4,500 when it first came out 2 years ago. But the lens that I have on it right now is 23. Well, it's normally $2,600, and I bought it for 2,300 on sale. Just the lens that I'm using right now is $2,300. So it's as much as almost the camera, and these are still considered relatively cheap lenses in the land of cinema lenses. Cinema lenses can like if you're using area lenses and stuff like that, $25, $50, $75,000 for one lens at one focal length.
It's insane, but it's another it's another category. It's an investment because it's like buying a tool. You're utilizing it to generate income, right? It's a tool. It's a tool of your trade.
It is. It is. For me, the price point I'm buying lenses at, totally acceptable and commonplace to buy your own lenses.
Yeah.
When I talk about those cinema lenses, very rarely do anyone own them other than production houses that rent them out.
It's something that you would rent out. Yeah.
It's something you rent out, and you pick out the right lenses for the project, and you wait in line for them too.
It's like for me, like someone like me, and not to segue backwards in the conversation, but someone like me I'm not a videographer. I'm not a filmmaker. But I like watching movies, and the lensing and the video quality, like really good video quality will jump out at me, but it's not going to speak any kind of language to me that I would understand. Right. Like, so I'm kind of joining the conversation as a unbiased, just listener watcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't know from a shot in a film what kind of lens it was. Like maybe I would understand it. Okay, that's a wide angle. Right. See, it's a wide angle.
Wide or a tight.
Yeah. And that's kind of the extent. And it's not to say that it's not important to me, but like watching a film for me, like those are the things that go under the radar for most of your average watch.
99% of people.
And they don't understand how important it makes the feel, right? Because I do understand, even though I may not realize what's happening, I do understand that what I'm not realizing is everything that makes the atmosphere of what I'm watching what it is. That's and right. there's so much depth and and depth and mystery to it to me. And that's that world that you live in, right? There
It is.
you're finding the new avenues, new lenses, new technologies.
And I don't get to play with the stuff I just quoted. I mean, I get to play with what I've got, but I've never gotten to use an actual cinema lens. I've never gotten to experience the difference. I remember when I first upgraded from a standard definition camera to an HD camera, which was the Canon T3i at that point. And you're talking about even back when I bought it, like a $600 body. And when I experienced using it in comparison to these the camera I was just talking about, the Panasonic DVX 100Bs.
Yeah.
I was using this ultimately cheaper camera than those, and it was like outperforming it in such a extreme way. I thought, I'm done. This looks just as good as all the big Hollywood stuff. I remember feeling like it was that capable. All I'm missing is my technique and ability and lighting understanding. Like, I can grow with this tool and go all the way. That's the way I felt about it.
Yeah.
And, because it was still, you just never had that power. Then, here we are multiple cameras later. And every time I upgrade and you touch and feel and work with the higher, the higher quality stuff, you use that and you go back and you look at your stuff from just a year or two ago and you see the deficiencies. And you realize, like, there really is a reason that you can not only charge more, but that your work is just perceived in such a different professionalism light. Like, I can watch, I remember thinking that my stuff was like really top notch at a certain point. And like, I look back on it and I was like, oh, that still looks good. But I see all the limitations with what I was working with. And I also see the limitations in what my understanding was on the lighting and the color grading and how I put together those shots and the edit and the pacing. And I still have stuff that I think is absolutely great from a few years ago, but once you play with the high quality stuff, it's the same thing to a large extent with audio. Once you really get to work with some of the higher end stuff and you've gotten to taste it and you work with, and then you go backwards and work with the other stuff, what you're battling against. You can still get it to sound really good, but what you're working against with the lesser quality stuff. The hardware I'm talking about, like how you're going to have to work it and massage it and what the characteristic is of the mic, for instance. That now it's like, okay, well, I know this is this type of mic and it's going to be really good at this type of thing. And if I wanted to get to do this, I'm going to have to tweak it this way in post, and maybe this distance or this, type of voice I can get it to work with. You get all those things. But when you first got that mic, it was the all-in-one, could do anything. This thing's insane, right?
There are whispers among the muses of what you're both doing.
You mean you guys get up and communicate?
Norman! Those aren't yours! Oh. They were hot on our trail. Things got too dangerous.
What is that mess?
Something interrupted my music listening time.
Was it your big antenna?
Are you two causing noise pollution in this neighborhood?
Dobbs Dorian is who we need to perform with. Our collaboration with them is the only way to defeat her and fight back. To save creativity, for humanity.
Art must continue for the survival of us all, bro.